Even though Marvel Studios and the Russo brothers told us that Robert Downey Jr. was returning to play Doctor Doom, specifically Victor Von Doom, a lot of fans, including myself, had doubts about this, thinking that he still could very well be playing a Tony Stark variant. After all, why bring him back if you're not really going to use his face? And while now I think it doesn't ultimately matter who he plays, whether it's Victor Von Doom actually or a Tony Stark variant, I still believe that they are going to use the fact that he looks like Tony Stark as some type of plot point in the movie, and now a new report says the same thing. The movie will indeed address the fact that he looks like Tony Stark, which they should. If you have Deadpool and Wolverine addressing the fact that Deadpool saw somebody who was Chris Evans who looked like Captain America and assumed he was Captain America, but then showed us that he was actually Johnny Storm, then you definitely need to address the fact that this Doctor Doom guy that the Avengers have never met before actually looks like their beloved Tony Stark. And according to this report, not only are they going to address it, but Doctor Doom is going to use this against the Avengers in true Doctor Doom fashion. And I think that this is actually going to be a pretty important part when it happens in the movie, and I'll explain why in this video. Also, we got to talk about what leads up to this moment. How does Doctor Doom even know who Tony Stark is? According to the insider My Time to Shine Hello, in an exclusive post on X, she stated that Avengers Doomsday will reportedly feature Victor Von Doom taking advantage of his resemblance to Tony Stark to present himself as an ally to the MCU, which is something that I really do think Doom would do. And previously, while speaking to The Times, the Russo brothers, who are directing this movie and directed Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, when asked about Doctor Doom looking like Tony Stark, they said, "We can't explain that as it's part of the story. But there's nobody else in the world who could play this character the way he's about to." So make no mistake, the fact that Doom looks like Tony Stark is going to be a part of the story, and now it sounds like it's going to be pretty important, especially when it comes to a few key characters. And keep in mind, we've been hearing a lot of reports recently about Chris Evans returning as Steve Rogers, and not just a variant of Steve Rogers, but the actual Steve Rogers from the main 616 timeline. So the actual Steve Rogers that Tony knew. So the Steve Rogers that Tony was incredibly close with, for the most part. You know, there was that whole Civil War thing. But besides that, great friends. But I'm also thinking about how this is going to affect Spider-Man. It looks like at some point in time we're going to have a scene where Spider-Man sees Victor Von Doom and says something along the lines of, "Mr. Stark?" And it's probably going to be an emotional roller coaster for Spider-Man. This was the person that he looked up to the most, at least in the point in time where he was being mentored by him. He loved him. He was like a father to him. Seeing somebody show up that looks exactly like him, pretending to be him, that's going to lead to a very emotional moment when it's revealed that he is actually the villain. And I mean, Spider-Man went through that before with Mysterio. He thought Mysterio was going to be this great guy, and he kind of gave him the tech that he shouldn't. And he turned out to be bad and kind of turned his life upside down by revealing his identity. But maybe he's learned from that lesson. But the fact that Doctor Doom is going to take advantage that he looks like Tony Stark makes a lot of sense, especially if he knows who the Avengers are. Now, at this point in time, there's no way to tell how Doctor Doom really knows who the specific Avengers of Earth 616 are. But what's very interesting is that last week, Christian Harloff reported that he has heard from a reliable source that Doctor Doom is going to wear 2 different masks in the movie. And after hearing this news, a part of me thinks that perhaps one of those masks could be something very similar to an Iron Man mask. If he did learn before he gets to that universe about Tony Stark being Iron Man, and let's face it, there are probably a lot of different universes that have an Iron Man Tony Stark, then Doctor Doom would definitely calculate and prepare to meet the Avengers and possibly make a mask that resembles Iron Man, so he can say, yeah, I'm a Tony Stark variant, yeah, I'm Iron Man in my universe too. That way people believe him. So how does Doctor Doom get to our universe, and why does he come to our universe? I do have a theory about this, and it involves the Thunderbolts post-credit scene. Now, I've heard many people say that in that ship, maybe it's Doctor Doom. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now, but I'm tying it to this new report. What if that Fantastic Four ship in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene does indeed have Doctor Doom in it, but it also has Franklin in it? Insider reports tell us that Doctor Doom is going to take Franklin Richards, and the post-credit scene for the Fantastic Four definitely points to that, basically confirms it. So what if Doctor Doom goes to the Baxter building, takes Franklin Richards, then leaves the universe in the Fantastic Four ship? What if he gets to the Earth 616 universe first, before the Fantastic Four? This way, the Fantastic Four cannot reveal to the Avengers who he is. Because in the Fantastic Four First Steps, we got 2 Latveria Easter eggs implying that there is a Doctor Doom in this universe. And I'm assuming at this point in time that the Doctor Doom in the post-credit scene is from that universe. So the Fantastic Four probably and hopefully know all about Doctor Doom. I'm really hoping that the Fantastic Four have a pretty big backstory with Doom in that universe. I hope him and Reed went to college together and everything that we want from his backstory happened in that universe. That way Reed can actually tell us all about it, which is why it makes sense for Doom to arrive at the 616 universe first, because that makes it possible for him to trick the Avengers. If the Fantastic Four are there, they're just simply going to go, that's not Tony Stark, that's Victor Von Doom, and he kind of sucks. He took our kid. Let's get him. I think this makes the most sense for Doom to arrive in 616 before the Fantastic Four, otherwise he can't trick anybody. But then there's that other question. How exactly does he know about Tony Stark from that universe? Here's the thing, there are a lot of different, very acceptable answers to this. If Doom really is traveling throughout the multiverse and he has, let's say, TVA technology, then he probably is able to learn about certain universes. However, I don't think this has to be that complicated. When he shows up, it's very clear that the Avengers, both Avengers, the real ones and the one with the Z, are going to go and see what this multiversal ship is about. And for the most part, everybody in that universe knows who Tony Stark is, Iron Man. So when he steps out of that ship and he shows his face, everyone's going to go, Tony? Mr. Stark? Iron Man? And I think it's going to be pretty easy for Doom to simply go, yes, it's me, I'm Tony Stark. Obviously, he can't play it off like he's the real Tony Stark because Tony Stark died, but he can play it off like he's a variant from another universe. And as we talked about in our last video about Deadpool and variants, a lot of these Avengers don't really know too much about the multiverse. They don't know about variants. So they could just assume that because he's from another universe and he is Tony Stark, he's probably pretty much like their Tony Stark, which will make them assume that he's good. And I even think that he might play it off like Franklin Richards is actually his son, which could lead to conflict between the Avengers and the Fantastic Four when the Fantastic Four show up, which would lead to probably a pretty emotional betrayal for some of the characters. Again, specifically thinking about Spider-Man. But something to remind you about is something that we've been hearing a lot recently from insiders, and that is Doctor Doom really is going to believe that he is the savior of the multiverse. He is the one that is going to save it. And that's probably what he's going to kind of pitch to the Avengers. The multiverse is in jeopardy. The multiverse is going to be destroyed. I'm trying to save it. And through this child, I can save it. This child has the power cosmic, and I believe that through him, we can save the multiverse. But there are people opposing me. There are the Fantastic Four, and there are the X-Men. I need help from you all to fight them off so I can save the multiverse. That could very well be Doom's plan. Because we've heard that Doom has a team, so he could even show up with a team. He could show up with some variants of some other characters that would make the Avengers trust him even more. Because his followers probably do believe that he is trying to do something good. That, or maybe they'll just completely flip it for the story and say that Doctor Doom really is just evil and he's trying to rule the multiverse himself, and he's promised other variants that he'd give them a slice of the pie if they help him out. But that's a whole other story. For now, with our Avengers, the people of our Earth 616, it looks like Doctor Doom really is going to use the fact that he looks like Tony Stark to his advantage. So when he shows up to the 616 universe and people call him Tony Stark, it'll be easy for him to say, yes, I'm Tony from a different universe. What was your Tony like here? And they'll tell him all about him. And it won't be that hard to kind of emulate what he's heard. Either that, or like I said, other universes have Tony Starks who are Iron Man, so he kind of just prepared in advance. Either way, I think this is definitely something they should do. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. is Doom now. He was Iron Man before. You have to address the fact that they look the same. And I'm glad to hear that if this report is true, they're going to do that. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Avengers Doomsday and Marvel news. Be sure to check out this video we did about Deadpool in Avengers Doomsday yesterday. And you can also find us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.